I sold my house to save my son from foreclosure. 2 weeks later, he told me I couldn't live in it. He didn't yell. He didn't apologize. He just stood in the hallway with his hands in his pockets and said, "Dad, this just isn't working out." Then he walked back into the kitchen like he'd told me the weather.
He walked away just like that, after everything his dad did.
That's where I need to start. Not at the beginning, but right there in that hallway, because that's the moment I understood what I'd actually done. Not save my son, funded his escape from a problem he built himself, and signed away the last thing I had left of his mother in the process. 6 weeks earlier, Marcus had called me crying, real crying. The kind that doesn't come easy from a 34-year-old man who always needed to look like he had it together. He said the bank had sent a foreclosure notice. 60 days. Renee was threatening to leave. The grandkids were scared. I asked him how much. He told me. I didn't flinch. My house, Carol's house, had a kitchen she'd painted herself. A pale yellow she called morning light. There was a dent in the linoleum near the stove where I dropped a cast iron skillet the winter she got sick. I'd always meant to fix it. I never did. 4 years after she passed, I still kept that house because I didn't know how to let go of the rooms that still felt like her.
He sold his wife's memory to save his son.
I signed the papers 10 days later, transferred the equity, cleared his mortgage, moved into his guest room with the plan to find a small rental nearby within a few months. That was the plan. The first month, Marcus seemed grateful. Hugged me the day the transfer cleared. Said he didn't know how to repay me. I told him he didn't have to. But around week 5, things started shifting. Small things. The kind of man talks himself out of noticing because he doesn't want to be the problem. The spare key stopped working one afternoon. Marcus said the lock had been sticking. He'd get me a new copy. He never did. Dinner was served at 7:30, and by the time I came downstairs, the table was already being cleared. I warmed something up alone in the kitchen at 8 p.m. 3 nights in a row before I stopped expecting an invitation. My room was referred to consistently as the guest room, never once as my room. Then Eli, my 7-year-old grandson, looked up at me from the couch one Saturday and said, matter-of-factly, "Mom says you're not staying long." I smiled and changed the subject. But I sat with that sentence for the rest of the day. I had sold the house where I raised his father. I was sleeping in a guest room, and the family I'd saved had already decided I was temporary. I found the texts by accident. I'd borrowed Marcus's tablet one evening. Mine was charging in the other room. His messages were already open. I wasn't looking for anything. But one thread was right there on the screen, and the first line stopped me cold. It was a message to his friend Derek, dated 4 months earlier. Before the phone call. Before the crying. Before any of it. Marcus had written, "If we frame it as 60 days to foreclosure, he'll panic and move fast. He won't let Eli lose the house. Once the equity hits our account, we can clear the truck notes and the rest of the credit lines. Derek, you think he goes for it? Marcus, he will. I just have to make him feel like there's no other option."
This was never an emergency. It was a plan.
I set the tablet down on the coffee table. I looked at the wall for a long time. The crying, the 60 days, Renee threatening to leave, all of it calibrated. Not a man drowning, a man spending. I called an attorney I'd worked with years before and asked him to pull the original paperwork. He called back the next afternoon, voice careful. The loan was 31 days delinquent at the time of transfer, not 60. A repayment plan was well within their reach. My son had looked at me, looked at Carol's house, and made a plan. I packed my 2 bags on a Thursday morning while Marcus and Renee were at work and Eli was at school. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. They hadn't noticed me eating alone in that kitchen for 3 weeks. They weren't going to notice an empty guest room until they needed someone to change a light bulb. I closed the front door behind me, heard the latch click, and walked to my truck. I checked into an extended stay off the highway outside Decatur. $62 a night. A bed, a microwave, a window that looked out at a parking lot. I sat on that bed the first night with a folder of photos in my lap. Carol on the dock, Eli's first birthday, the backyard in summer, the kitchen with the yellow cabinets and the dent in the floor I never fixed. I had given all of it away for a problem that never needed me to solve it. The anger lasted about 2 weeks. Then it went quiet and turned into something I recognized: assessment. 31 years as a contractor teaches you to read a structure honestly. Dry rot doesn't announce itself. A beam can look solid from the outside while the inside is already gone. I'd watched Marcus's situation the same way I'd look at a bad foundation. The fresh paint, the confident presentation, the rot underneath. The damage was done. The only question was whether to keep patching something that wasn't structurally honest or step back and build clean. I started going to a diner on the main road every morning. One day, a man named Phil came in looking like someone had handed him a project he didn't understand, which, it turned out, was exactly the case. He'd inherited a commercial building and the contractor he'd hired had walked off mid-renovation. Kitchen half finished. 2 bathrooms untouched. We shook hands the next morning. 3 weeks of managing subs, reading plans, doing finish work myself. The familiar weight of a hammer. The smell of sawdust and joint compound. The ache in my shoulders at the end of the day that felt earned instead of pointless. Phil paid me fair and sent 3 referrals my way. By the end of the month, I had 2 more jobs lined up. I found a 1-bedroom on a quiet street. Small, clean, good morning light. I hung Carol's photo above the breakfast table. Bought a new toolbox. Old habit. Checked the door frames when I moved in, the way I always do. Everything plumb. Everything square. I was starting to feel like a structure worth maintaining. Marcus called 4 months after I left. I was sitting at my small breakfast table when the phone rang, looking at Carol's photo in the morning light, my new toolbox on the floor beside my feet. He talked for a long time. A second truck overextended, 2 contracts fallen through, Renee's hours cut. He circled the ask for several minutes before he finally landed. "Dad, I don't know who else to call." I said, "Marcus, I need to tell you something I've been holding for a while." I told him about the tablet. I described the thread. I read him his own words, the 60-day framing, the truck notes, the plan to make me feel like there was no other option. He got angry first. Started in about his privacy, about me going through his things. I didn't interrupt him. I let the noise run out the way you let air bleed from a bad valve. Slow, then nothing. When he finally went quiet, I said, "Marcus, you're talking about a screen. I'm talking about my life."
That's it. That's the whole thing right there.
The real silence came then. And then, quietly, "I didn't think you'd actually have nowhere to go." That sentence. He'd built a plan around taking everything his father had. The one thing he hadn't considered was what happened to the father afterward. I said, "I sold my house to save you. I won't sell my life to save you again." I told him I hoped he found a way through it. I meant that. He's still my son. But I was not going to be the answer to a problem he could work through without me. Not after knowing what I knew. I said goodnight and hung up. There are still mornings I think about the kitchen. The yellow cabinets. That dent in the linoleum near the stove I never fixed. But 31 years in the trade taught me this. A foundation doesn't lie. You can patch cracks, paint over water damage, retile a floor that's already shifting underneath. Eventually the structure tells you the truth. Marcus built his life on a flawed blueprint and expected his old man to keep propping up the sagging beams. But a house can only hold so many temporary patches before the roof comes down. I'm done framing his walls. I'm building my own now. Plumb, square, and up to code.
Some people wake up too late. He woke up just in time. If this story hit you, drop a 1 in the comments, because I think there are more Franks. There are more Franks watching right now than any of us realize, I would say. And every single one of you deserve better. So yeah, do let me know. And we should just keep the lesson. I would say everything is up. everything is fine, I would say. We should take the lesson. It's just a story. That's it for today. See you in the next. Take care. Bye bye.